In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build a composition. So starting with the raw ingredients, which are the use of perspective to draw a three-dimensional object that is going to be the focus of your composition. And notice that this drawing contains a lot of different elements to it. You do have here a window, we have a door, we have a sidewalk, we have a fence, and we have a pitched roof. Now, all of these things are important details to have. However, they're currently in a very basic state, and if you look at them, you'll notice that they are flat. So even though we're using perspective to create a three-dimensional object, it's important to realize that you also need to use perspective to add three-dimensional details to that object. So it's not enough to just kind of draw, your basic shape to form the building or main structure and then add things to it that are going to add details such as windows and doors, but just leave them flat. You've got to actually develop those aspects with three-dimensional detail. So let me show you what I mean by that. Take a look at what happens when I just toggle on three-dimensional detail. What's going to happen is I'm going to be quickly adding depth and volume to the window, the door, the roof, and the fence. So watch what happens if we take these elements and suddenly make them three-dimensional. Now, not only does the building itself have three dimensions, but the details on the building, the architectural details such as the fence, the roof, the doorway, the sidewalk, and the window now have depth and dimension. And that is very important to remember. That's a very important aspect of developing a drawing and making it realistic, adding a level of sophistication to your work. There are additional things that you want to add to your composition to make for a well-balanced composition. And in this case here, we have a little bit of things going on in the a little bit of elements in the foreground, such as a fence and a sidewalk, and our middle ground is comprised of the building. But there's nothing going on in the background. It's completely empty. So you want to answer the question of what's going on in the background. And the best way to think about answering that is to ask yourself, where is this subject? What is this subject's story? What kind of story or environment do I want to convey through my background? And the background can add a lot to give your subject its context. So if I add a background to this drawing, now we get a sense of where it's located and how it's situated, and it tells the story. It fleshes out the composition in terms of balancing the foreground with the middle ground and with the background. It adds depth because now we have those three layers: foreground layering on top of middle ground, layering on top of background. So it again is another way to add depth in addition to the linear perspective. But it also, like I said before, gives context. It tells a story. It gives your viewer more information and clues as to what is going on with your main subject. And then the last thing that you want to think about adding, now that we've kind of got these two elements added, the last sort of finishing piece to this is to add elements of visual interest that are going to hold attention and keep your viewer engaged and give them something interesting to look at or contemplate or think about or enjoy in the composition, as the case may be, whatever your intended goals are. So whatever it is you're trying to convey or get them to experience or see, or whatever it is that you want them to get out of the drawing visually, add those details to finish out the rest of the story. So in this case, I generally refer to all of those elements as adding visual interest. So notice here now I added this last bit, which now has we have a flag kind of in the background. We have some bushes on either side of the doorway. The doorway now has a door frame and a door knob. The building now has indications of bricks. We've got a window frame and some books resting in the windowsill. a tree in the background, little bits of texture to indicate grass, those kinds of things, and a little bit of an extra architectural detail above the door. So working together, just to peel back these layers again, we start out with the basic perspective structure of the main shape. Then you want to add three-dimensional details using perspective to that basic shape. Then you want to make sure that you address the foreground, the middle ground, and the background in terms of balancing the composition. And then the last step is to add any kinds of finishing touches that will engage the viewer's attention.